In this video, I'll be demonstrating how to hand sew a basting stitch. You'll need thread, a needle threader, scissors, and your basting stitch template. Now, I've already completed 6 rows of the basting stitch template, and I would like to show you what I did to complete those rows as I finish up my last 2 rows of the template. So to start, you're going to take your fabric in your hand and your threaded needle, and you're going to work from the bottom of the work at the very beginning of the first marking on the right side. So now that we have our needle through the work and our thread is at the beginning of the first marking, we're going to come to the end of the first marking and exit our needle point and then enter again, but this time we're going to enter at the beginning of the next marking. So we have where we exited and entered still on the shaft of our needle, and then we're going to pull that through, creating our very first stitch, our very first basting stitch. All right, and then we're going to keep going, exiting out at the end of the marking and entering the work again at the beginning of the next marking and pull through. Now, the basting stitch is a type of long, loose sewing stitch. And it's long and loose because it's meant to be a temporary stitch. It's not permanent. It's a temporary stitch that we use until we can apply a permanent stitch. So we'll hold 2 pieces of fabric together using the basting stitch, and then we'll apply a more permanent stitch and then take out that basting stitch. The basting stitch is also used when you're creating ruffles or gathers in a fabric, and it needs to be long and loose. So the basting stitch will range between 1/4 of an inch and 1/2 inch long. So I'm keeping with the same pattern. I'm going out of the work or exiting my stitch at the end of the marking and entering at the beginning of the next marking, all the way down from right to left. And now I've worked all the way to the end of the row, and I have a completed row using the basting stitch. So once we've reached the end of the stitch, we have to end our stitch. And in order to do that, you're going to turn your work over and you're going to make a very small stitch at the end in the same area where your work ended. Just a tiny stitch right here. And you're going to pull it, but you're not going to pull it all the way through. You want to pull it so that you see this loop that forms. And you're going to take your needle through the loop. And once you've done that, you're going to pull it through. And it's going to create a little knot. We're going to do that same thing again. Make a tiny stitch. Pull until you see your loop. And we're going to take our needle through the loop and pull, creating a knot. And now we can cut that. And we've ended our stitch. So now we've completed 8 rows on our basting stitch template. But there's some space left, so we're going to work 2 more rows without any markings. So it's going to start the same way as we did before. Under the work, we're going to exit and then enter to create our first stitch. Exit, and enter. Exit, and enter. Continue this until you're finished with your row. When you're finished, you'll have your 10 rows of the basting stitch.